Hello everyone, in this video I am going to show my process of painting of hollow crossbow. I have already applied an undercoat. At the beginning I am simply applying the basic color all over my miniature. On the parts I am currently painting I am applying some carmine mixed with black. Usually at this step I apply only one layer, but you can do 2 layers if you don't want to make highlighting and shadowing. For the chainmail I am using some silver. And for the upper part of his clothes I'm using some brown mixed with white. In my case I'm using some umber. For his helmet I'm using some umber, and same color is used for his shoes. For the crossbow I'm just taking some umber and mixing it with some orange. You can simply find this shade of brown in a store, but I don't have it, so I just mix it. I am using silver for the metallic parts of the crossbow. At the end I'm gonna make his body parts. I'm personally just using some white and mix it with violet, a little bit of red and yellow. It's not really important, like the proportions, you mix it as you like, and I usually prefer at the beginning for the first layer to apply a lot of white, and afterwards you make it darker where you want. So here how it looks like after it was dried. We're gonna proceed to the highlighting and shadowing. So I put some gold, some silver and some copper on my wet palette. Now I'm using those colors to mix colors which are gonna be used for shadowing and highlighting. So here I'm mixing some copper with some silver and some gold, and also I add some black to this mixture. This color is going to be used for the shadowing on a chainmail. In the beginning I just apply some black mixed with silver under his chainmail. This part is not really visible, but still it's worth to make it. Now I'm taking the mixture prepared for shadowing and apply it closer to his clothes and to the parts where we are supposed to see the shadow. It's quite important to use a thin layer so you can kind of see the silver parts through the shadowing mixture. Now I'm mixing our previous mixture with some golden and some silver and apply it next to the dark parts. This would help us to create a nice gradient so we don't have see an abrupt contrast from dark parts and light parts. And at the end you just apply some silver on the highlighted parts. This is how we're going to do our highlighting. Now I'm putting some carmine and black on my wet palette. I also use some silver and mix those colors together, and I'm gonna use this one to make my highlighting on the clothes. I just simply apply this color on the edges of his clothes. I'm making sure I have applied this color on every part which is supposed to be highlighted. Now I'm taking a darker color. You can do it either mixing with black or with carmine and apply it next to the highlighted parts. Again, as for the chainmail, I'm doing this in order to create a nice gradient. And again, I'm adding some black to the mixture and put it on the darker parts of the clothes in order to create shadows. You kinda need to look where it's supposed to be highlighted, where you're supposed to see a shadow, and kind of put like colors based on this principle and create the gradient as I did it previously. So to finish the look, I'm just taking some black and put it under our highlighting on the edges of the clothes. This is done in order to make a nice contrast. It just makes your miniature look more finished, and you can kind of see the separation between his clothes and chainmail. Now I'm slightly retouching the highlighting, putting some silver on most highlighted parts. Next I'm going to finish his body parts. I use the colors I mentioned previously, which are white, violet, yellow and red, and kinda mix them all together. I don't really have like a nice plan how to make it, but I kinda look where it's supposed to be darker and I put like more violet there. I look where it's supposed to be lighter, I put like more of a yellow or more of white. My main advice is not to use black for shadowing because it usually doesn't really look good on body parts when you use black as shadow. So I would recommend you to use violet or brown if you use like it for human skin. And after applying the darker and the lighter colors on my leg, I again try to create like a nice contrast. You can do it either by, as we did it for the clothes or chainmail, just like mixing like a lighter or darker color and kind of put it next to it, or you can just simply use that blending, which is simply just take some water on your brush and just try to blend your colors right on the miniature so you can see like a gradient. It's gonna work perfectly on the skin and the body parts of this miniature because you don't need to need to be perfect. It's even better if it's a little bit messy. And yeah, for his mouth and for his eyes I just use black. Now I'm mixing colors for the upper part of his clothes and for the helmet. So I make the helmet first. I take some umber and some black and a little bit of silver. This color I just gonna put on the darker parts of his helmet, which is like this small invagination. And afterwards again use the same strategy. I just make it a little bit lighter, and again I try to create a gradient going from darker to lighter color, which darker on the bottom, lighter on the top. Then I just put some silver on the edges of his helmet just to create the highlighting. By the way, for the highlighting, as you have noticed, I prefer to use silver, not white. But if you don't have silver, you can use white, but I strongly recommend to use silver because usually it looks better with silver. Because with silver you also have this iridescent effect, and I don't know, in my opinion I think silver works better for the highlighting. So I use the same technique as I have used it for the bottom part of his clothes. I just take, this time and mix it with some white, and I just use simply white here instead of silver as I mentioned before, and I just do the highlighting, put it on the edge, and again I take a darker color, put it next to the highlighting, and I try to create a gradient. This is quite simple technique, I must say, because it didn't take me much time to make this miniature. I think I did it like in 2 days, and like it includes the time it was supposed to be dried and stuff, so it's quite easy and quite fast, I think. At this point I also have decided to put some black on the base. Now I'm gonna make the highlighting on his pants. This time is a little bit different. I just take some silver, like dry silver. I don't use a lot of water. I put it on my pants with a big brush, and after like slightly touching it with a finger, I'm taking the excess of the silver. And usually it just stays on the top, not on the bottom, but you really need to be careful putting your silver. You don't need to put a lot of silver, just slightly touching it with a dry brush. So it kind of looks nice, and it doesn't take a lot of time, especially after you practice this technique. And then again I just put some black to make the contrast. And now I'm gonna just paint the crossbow. I use some umber, some red and some yellow. This is our basic color. And I'm just gonna apply it on the crossbow like for a second layer. Then I add some white to this mixture, like a lot of white, and I put it on the edges of the crossbow and on the parts which I feel are supposed to be highlighted. So we're gonna use this as our highlighting. Here I use white, not silver, for the highlighting because I feel it, like for the wooden parts, it looks better with white. And at the end I just put some black on the invaginations and on the parts which are supposed to be darker. And at the end I'm just making the base. It's super easy. I just put some glue on the base and like put it all over the places. This is like the easiest way to make your base, I feel. Then I'm just taking some sand and put it on my base so it sticks to the base. And that's it. Also, I also like to add some red painting on the base just to create like an imitation of the blood. This is the final result. Thank you for watching and bye.